Alright, hey guys, TWC Dimitri here with a tutorial on how to start this here P-51 Mustang up. I know a lot of people are having difficulties getting the engine running. I won't say a lot of people, but I've ran into a few people that have difficulties getting the engine running and getting off the ground. It's a pretty simple aircraft to fly once you get the hang of it, once you go through the startup procedures and everything. DCS, especially this one, has a couple good training modules that you can go through to learn how to do the stuff. But for all intents and purposes, this will be a quicker one, I guess you could say. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the left side of the cockpit and go around to the right side of the cockpit. Using my startup procedures, I like to keep it in a general, in a systematic setting. So first things first, we are going to go ahead and raise our flaps. That way, once we turn our engine on and everything, the flaps are automatically coming up. That way we don't forget about them. Alright. Then we're going to go down to the carburetor air control. Go ahead and push that all the way forward. Alright, take our rudder, go ahead and trim that 5 degrees to the right to counteract the torque of the engine while we are on takeoff. And once you do that, once this thing's properly trimmed out on takeoff, it pretty much lifts itself off the ground. All you got to do is really keep it going straight. So there's not a whole lot of inputs that you have to do to get it up into the air. Next thing, we're going to go ahead and push our propeller pitch all the way forward. So once we get it started, we're going to be taking off at 3,000 RPM. Alright, go ahead and turn on our fuel booster. Switch the magnetos to both. Cut the fuel cock on. Make sure we are using our main tank, and we are. Alright, what I like to do on the ground is go ahead and turn my guns on. That way, once I get started, get going, I don't have to think about it, don't have to worry about that. Just keep your finger off the trigger. That way you don't accidentally shoot up nobody on the ground. Next thing is we're going to go ahead and turn our battery, power, and generator on, and we'll get a green light. Once that green light goes away, we can start going into our startup procedures, our actual starting the engine, which becomes pretty tricky to some people. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. I always forget about that. I never look at that. I always use like that actual horizon. So alright, so we're ready to go ahead and start this puppy up. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime my fuel for about 5 seconds. Once that's done, I'm gonna go over to my starter and click that, and my engine starts to rotate. Alright, now it's starting to catch a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and right click on the mixture, set that to run, and we are good to go. Flaps are coming up. I'll go ahead and close my canopy just to cut back down on the noise. We are good to take off once our temperatures get up to idle position, and that's it. That's the simplest way to start up a Mustang. Now, you could go ahead and start turning on your AN APS 13, which is your rear radar. It tells you, somebody comes up behind you, or if you're below 3,000 feet, it'll be going off. But I'll just keep that off for now, for all intents and purposes. And we can go ahead and taxi to the runway. This is a little bit tricky playing a maneuver going to the runway, because your tail wheel locks. It only gives you 6 degrees of motion at any given point, so you gotta kind of play with it. But here we are. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Let's get to the runway. I'll show you. This thing's pretty easy to take off. It's not, like I said, it pretty much takes off itself once you get it good and trimmed out. So we're going to go ahead and start our turn onto the runway. I'm not going to ask for clearance because there's no other aircraft on here. This isn't the easiest thing to fly. Well, turn on the ground here, but we'll get around to it. Here we are. Get ourselves onto the runway. Alright, we're almost in position to start our takeoff roll. Alright, we're going to do our final checks. Once we come to a stop here, final checks, make sure the flaps are up. They're up. Make sure the rudder's trimmed 5 degrees right. That is done. I should probably turn off my, close my starter switch. That way I don't bump it. Alright, engine's running good. Everything's good to go. RPM's at 3,000. Alright, so now we're going to set our wheel brakes and go ahead and throttle up to a 40% manifold pressure. 40 on the manifold pressure. Alright, everything's good to go, no failures. We're going to let off the brakes and give it full power very slowly. That way we don't bust the engine. Got to be a little bit on the rudder, and you see it's already starting to want to lift itself off the ground. See, we're off the ground right now, and there was basically no input on the stick from me at all to get myself off the ground. So that was, like I said, it kind of just lifts itself off the ground once it's trimmed out. Go ahead and throttle it back about 46 on the boost, on the manifold pressure, I mean. Go ahead and bring the propeller pitch back to about 2600 RPM. I'll go ahead and cruise like this. It's a pretty easy aircraft to fly once you get going on it, and I've rather been enjoying it. This along with the A10. I'll probably do a A10 startup tutorial sometime. So now I want to just go ahead and put my rudder back to the right, but no, I'm losing altitude. It's alright. I gotta configure a key for that. But back to the left, and there you have it. Too easy to take off. See y'all next time.